Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica, and this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time iconic tween entertainment from the early 2000s.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by nor affiliated with any of the shows, channels, actors, products, anything that we mention in this podcast. We just really like talking about TV. And today, the TV that we're talking about is
Phil of the
Phil of the Future, Season 2, Part 2. So if you haven't listened to our previous episodes, we covered Phil of the Future Season 1 over 2 different episodes, and our most recent one was Season 2, the bulk of the episodes. How many times can I say the word episodes in this intro? Now, today we will be covering Season 2 from episode 18 until the finale, and then do some wrap up, our rankings, our quizzes, to just fully, wrap up how we feel about Phil. Before we jump into it, Jessica, what have you been enjoying lately?
By what I've been enjoying is going to loop back to a story that I just told you. But this is my recommendation to all of you to go out to a show with just local bands. I go to concerts all the time, but I went to a show that was just 3 local artists, one of which I've seen before as an opener. But other than that, never heard of any of the other artists. They're all Los Angeles bands. It was amazing. Support local music. The tickets were like $18. I just cannot recommend it more. Find a local show, go to a local show. Those are the bands that need the support. So that's my what I've been enjoying this week. How about you?
That was lovely. This week I've been like a mess, but mostly I have been enjoying reading books that support women's wrongs. I love supporting women's wrongs. And also I have been listening to Bono's memoir, which came out in November. I'm not a big U2 person. Before this memoir could maybe list Beautiful Day as like the only song and then recognize a few other songs of theirs.
Yeah.
Obviously I've heard them like on my parents' radio, but I was listening to a Brene Brown podcast with him on it. I don't know if you know who she is. She's like a big self-help person, and she had him on it. And he's like, he does a lot of charity. He seems like an interesting guy. And he was talking about the audiobook and how there's like layers where sometimes they'll be talking about something and you'll like hear the song start playing in the background. And I was like, that's an audiobook I think I want to listen to. I didn't pay for it. Use your library app. It's 20 hours long, which is the longest audiobook I've ever listened to. But I'm like 5 hours in.
Wow.
And I'm so far very much enjoying it. Like, they'll talk about the venue and like the chatter of the people, and you'll hear people chattering in the background, and like it really sets a scene and gives you a lot of intro into the post-punk UK scene, which I didn't realize U2 is post-punk. I definitely thought of them as alternative, but because of when they started, they're actually considered post-punk. Didn't know.
Interesting. I feel like I need to listen to that.
I feel like you would enjoy it because you appreciate punk music. I don't know how you feel about U2, but does anyone really dislike U2?
I had a bunch of their albums on CDs, so I wouldn't say that I'm like a huge U2 fan, but I do enjoy them.
Okay. I feel like they're always solid. But anyway. So let's jump into it. Episode 18, Happy Nerd Day. And this one, production code is 209, so it was actually produced to be earlier in the season, but for some reason we get it at the end. So, Jess, did you want to do the summary? You
sure.
Up.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how recently you've watched these, so yeah.
I'm not sure either.
That checks out. Phil is working on a birthday gift for Keeley, and his plan is to take her on the Skyak. um, on this like big Skyak trip. But Lloyd is trying to fix the time machine, as always. That's all he's ever doing. Um, and so, in order to fix the time machine, he determines that he needs to take out all of the batteries from all of their future gadgets, and so that they can no longer use any future technology. And Phil's really upset by this because he had this big plan for Keely. The previous year, he basically forgot about Keely's birthday, and he knows that she's someone who really, really, really likes people celebrating her birthday. So he's like really bummed about this. Um, and so he tries to make it up to her by getting her a cake, but then the cake ends up getting smashed in her face. And Owen ends up throwing her like this really fun surprise party. And so then Phil feels even more defeated. And so in the end, he ends up surprising her with a picnic of all her favorite things.
Yeah. I think the kayaking trip was going to be to the Northern Lights, right?
Something like that. Yeah, I knew it was something big.
Yeah. This is one of those indications of how long they've been there because he messed it up last year. Did you go over the fact that he caked her in the face twice?
I have just once. What do you mean twice?
I think he did it the previous year in a flashback.
Oh, okay, yes. And then again it happens this year unintentionally. Well, unintentionally both years.
So birthdays in the future are called nerd days. Do you remember what it stands for?
Okay, this is what I wrote. Please tell me if it's wrong. I wrote that it stands for Natal Import Registration Day.
It's close. Natal input registration date.
Input. I was like, import. I probably wrote input and then it auto corrected because I spelt it wrong. Because I was like, that
Uh-huh.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the natal input registration date, which is pretty cute. The picnic is very cute. Phil caring about Keely, but honestly, most of my notes for this one are on the B plot.
I honestly do not take a lot of notes on this one, like of the plot, nor notes of like what happened or quotes or anything, which tells me that I just found this one fine. Like, I didn't have thoughts that were negative, also didn't have a ton of positive thoughts. So I think it's one of those that for me just falls in the middle.
Falls a little flat.
Yeah.
I think I pretty much assigned it for the Phil and Keely development.
Yep.
Do you have the B plot, or
I
do you
just,
want me to?
I have, you can add to it. I'll kick us off. So Pim goes to school and she's upset because the new guy gets seated in her class and he's like playing the teacher's pet. And Pim is very much not into this because she's mischievous and hates that type. Well, it turns out this gentleman, his name is Simon, is just as mischievous as Pim. And so they become like a little duo, I feel.
Well, they butt heads a lot until she like really respects his pranking, and so she develops a crush on him, and then he develops a crush on her in return, and then she stops liking him when he likes her. And I just don't like it at all. I don't like this plot line. It's something that you see in other Disney Channel episodes. Like I would call this a Disney trope probably. I feel like didn't we kind of saw this with Matt in Lizzie with him, or well, yeah, with him and the little blonde girl.
Yeah, but she was there for multiple episodes, so it felt like there was a place for it. But yes.
I did write in my notes, why are we introducing a new character now? But we really don't see Simon in any other episodes. So
No.
the he calls her a goddess among us, which is pretty cute. Other notes I have are about like what happens because the Diffies don't have their future gadgets. Like Pim's hair is iconic. It's disgusting. It's a
Yeah.
huge mess.
Yeah.
Um, and Lloyd somehow shaves his eyebrows off while trying to make a breakfast smoothie.
Yeah. And I feel like out of all of them, the mom is struggling. They all are struggling, but the mom is struggling the most. She is like, you cannot expect me to live in this century without my future gadgets. She's pissed.
Also, they use like a hoop to get dressed, and that stops working, or they can't use it. So Phil goes to school in a bunny suit.
Yeah.
But I agree, it's a middle road. I think I enjoyed watching it more before, but I have no other notes. Episode 19.
Yeah. Ill of the Future. This one is a wild ride,
This
y'all.
one I think you will have a lot of notes about.
I
'Cause
fell asleep watching this one last week when we recorded. And so I last week we were going to do 2 and 1. We didn't end up doing it. Whatever. So then I rewatched it. I'm so glad I rewatched it. There is a lot happening.
she texted me and was like, this was a ride from start to finish, but I'm not sure I ever wanted to get on. Like,
Yes. So yeah, it's a lot. This episode starts out with you see Pim being like super, super sweet to everyone, and she's even shocking herself. Like, she does not know why she is being so nice. She's like trying to hug Phil and is just being the opposite of her personality. And then
Mhm.
Pim and Phil go to school, and while that is happening, you see Lloyd and Barb in the kitchen, and Barb is like turned into a like Curtis essentially. She's like eating out of a bowl, her hair is sticking up everywhere, like she is not behaving like herself. And Lloyd sees her arm and she has this giant green patch on her arm. And so he's like, "You have greenemia, which is a future disease." And
Mhm.
so while at school, Phil also starts to not behave like himself, and he's lying about everything. Like, he cannot stop lying. He's like trying to catch himself and tell the truth, and he just can't. And so they get on the little like future communicator thing with Lloyd, and Lloyd's like, "You guys need to come home. You're gonna fully turn green. Like, people cannot see you turning green. You need to rush home because everyone will know you're from the future if you turned green." Is the thought process there. So at school, it's like the big, they don't call it the hometown game, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. It's like the big hometown game between them and Handsome Town, which is their rivals. And they're like gearing up, and Keely is doing her little morning news show for the school, and she interviews Bruno, the quarterback. And during that interview, Bruno asks her to go with her to like the pre-game dinner or something, and she's like, no. It's basically what happens.
Mhm.
And so while Phil and Pim are trying to like leave school because they're turning green and they don't want anyone to see them, Phil runs into Keely and he just keeps lying. He's like, "You should have said yes, you should go out with him." All of these things that he doesn't really mean, and it puts a lot of thoughts in Keely's head, and Keely's like, "Okay, I guess I should say yes." Um, and so she ends up going back to Bruno and accepting his invite to go to the dinner. They're rushing home. They get caught in the hallway, and everyone's pissed because Handsome Town's colors are green. And so they're like booing them and chasing them home. This episode is wild, guys.
I didn't remember almost any of these details you're giving.
Oh, really?
Um, Particularly not that it's Handsome Town. That's an awful name.
Oh, I'm surprised you don't know that because it comes up in multiple episodes. Handsome Town. This isn't the first time we hear it.
Had no idea.
Oh yeah, this is probably like the third or fourth time that they mention Handsome Town, and that's just in the episodes I have watched. So I feel like they probably mention it more. Um, So they finally get home, but of course Mr. Hackett thinks shit is suspicious, like he always does with the Diffies. And so he, very unprofessionally, and I'm pretty sure illegally, like, follows them home.
He like breaks into their house.
I was gonna get there. And
Sorry.
no. Yeah, it's crazy. And so part of the greenemia is it's like a super quick disease and you like get over it really fast, so they start to feel better by the afternoon, but your whole body turns green and then you grow a giant beard, like a troll beard.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of them are green, including now Lloyd also has greenemia. All of them are green. All of them have troll beards. And Mr. Hackett breaks in, or Principal Hackett breaks into their house. Like full on breaks in. He has like weirdly like a fly net or a butterfly catching net of some sort.
Mm.
And he breaks in their house and he ends up passing out. And they end up like tricking him to believe whatever. They end up playing a trick on him. We can get in that later. That's not that important to the plot. But this whole time this is happening, Phil is like, I need to go back to school. I need to tell Keeley not to go on that date. Like, I'm ruining my chances with Keeley. And Lloyd is like, no. And then finally lets him go. And so he runs to the dinner. He's green. He has a beard. They think that he's dressed as a handsome town troll, which, like, I don't know if their mascot is the troll. That part escapes me. And he ends up, like, getting in a brawl with Bruno and lets Bruno win. And Bruno's like, yes, it's a good omen for the game. But then he, like, takes Keeley back and was like, I didn't really mean what I said, and, like, explained what was going on. And that's the plot, guys.
And it's like ridiculous every time Phil tries to talk to Keeley because he can't even explain what's happening because he can only talk in lies. So he repeatedly tries to say he's sick and he says, I'm feeling a little sick.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like he can't. At one point he says neverything, like he can't say everything.
Yeah.
There's one point where, like, when you say that he and Lloyd were talking and he's like, I really need to go back and talk to Keeley, and Lloyd's like, no, and then eventually he agrees. They're talking in lies.
To each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like saying the opposite of what they mean and understanding each other.
Yeah.
Which I found really funny.
Yeah, I do have to say the writing in this episode, I think they were able to have a lot of fun with it because as zany and wacky of an episode it is, it flows really well and it goes by so quickly because it's just like so wild in the lines that they're throwing at each other because they're constantly lying, and then you see like Pim being super sweet but then having like visceral reactions to how sweet she's being and like shocking herself, and it's just really, really funny.
Yeah, because they can't control these things happening, but they still recognize that they don't want them to be happening.
Yes.
Also, Phil interrupts the intro, I wrote down as a note.
Oh, is that this episode? There is an episode where he interrupts the... I don't think it's this episode, though.
I wrote it in my notes that it is.
Oh, maybe it is. There is an episode where he's, like, rambling off things. I think about Pim, so maybe it is this episode. Maybe he's saying, like, how horrible she is or something, and he keeps going, like, rambling on and on. Mm-hmm. And then the intro starts, and he's like, wait, I'm not done, and then continues.
That would be accurate.
The other things I have here, which just was like one thing that I didn't like love, or I just thought they could have been more creative, is like, right, Barb is opposite herself, so she's like not put together, which I wouldn't really say she's super put together, but you know, she's just like all disheveled. She's not really caring about the kid. She's being kind of selfish. Pim's being super sweet, and then Phil, who's normally like very honest and truthful, and he can't help but just only lie. Well, they make Lloyd the exact same as Phil. And I'm like, they are not the same personality wise. Like, we couldn't have come up with anything different.
Yeah, that's true. And they're not like Lloyd. Lloyd has some very interesting characteristics to him that Phil does not. He's dumber.
Yeah.
He's weirder.
Yeah.
So I get what you mean. That is kind of lazy, but I guess that's also how you get that scene of them talking through their lies.
Yeah. I think obviously it was purposeful, but part of me is like, oh, they couldn't have come up with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have
One of
something else?
my other note is about Hackett. We
Yeah.
are going to talk about some of these episodes. We're not going to talk about all of them because I didn't assign all of them to Jess, but it's a recurring theme in season 2 in particular that Vice Principal Hackett starts suspecting the Diffies are otherworldly or up to something. They're like very strange to him. He doesn't exactly suspect they're from the future per se, which
No,
fair, I
he
don't know.
thinks they're aliens. He straight up tells them he thinks they're
Well,
aliens.
that's in another episode.
Oh.
Um but it is, you also see less of Curtis. I wonder if they just decided to have one or the other for most episodes feature. It's
Yeah.
kind of annoying, honestly. I don't love him being involved. Like, get a life, dude. Also, sorry for my cat crying in the background.
Um, yes, I do love though, because this part of his personality comes out throughout the season, as Amanda mentioned, but I really feel like in these last few episodes more. Um, there's a line that Principal Hackett says where he's like, "Don't think I haven't mentioned your family to my UFO watchers in Chili Club." And I just thought that was hilarious that he participates in that, because of course he does.
And speaking of him and his obsession with the Diffies, unless you have any other notes, move on
I
to.
have a question.
Okay.
During Keely's morning announcement, she says, "Our school color is Sky Lab Blue, and everyone needs to wear Sky Lab Blue to the game." What color is that? Is it a royal blue? Is it a sky blue? What makes it Sky Lab Blue? The color that they show on the show looks like a royal blue, but why the fuck are we calling it Sky Lab? I was really upset by this whole color thing. It's not a color.
It makes me think of the first season of Grey's Anatomy when they're still, well, I guess it's the first couple of seasons when they're still interns and they're in the lighter blue scrubs as opposed to the later seasons when they're in the dark blue scrubs. Because if it's a lighter blue, then you could say it's like a sky blue, and also it's scrubs, so that's the lab part, you know? That's what I'm thinking. But you're
Okay.
saying darker blue, so look,
Yeah.
they probably intentionally did that
I
because these
hated
writers
it.
are weird.
Yeah. I didn't like it. Okay. Episode 20.
Where's the Wizard? And this one is also directed by J.P. Minot. Phil loses the wizard. That's how it starts. Phil loses the wizard. It says Phil, Keely, and Pim lose the wizard, but I really want to put it on Phil. He loses the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And Vice Principal Hackett finds it, decides he's going to put it in the lost and found, except he doesn't. He puts it in his desk and he plays around with it. And Pim gets involved, knows it's happening,
So
and tricks him,
the
kind of.
first person who actually steals the wizard or finds it is Danny.
Yeah. And he ends
And
up accidentally speaking Spanish.
so he is like, I don't know, him and Pim have some scheme going on with the metal detector, and he gets to keep one item. And so Pim's like, "You can't keep that item." So she takes the wizard back. And
Right.
Danny is like, "This is messed up if I'm doing all the work." So then he steals it out of her pocket. Um, and then that's how it ends up getting in the hands of Principal Hackett.
Well, how does it go from Lil Danny to Hackett?
I don't know. All I know is that he starts speaking Spanish and somehow Principal Hackett has it.
I do have Lil Danny finds the wizard and steals it from Pim after she tries to get it back.
Uh-huh.
He accidentally starts speaking Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Hackett has it, he like summons a pony. He accidentally has a hologram call with Lloyd. He decides that the Diffies are aliens because of this futuristic device.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls the government,
Mm-hmm.
which responds, "Hello, you've reached the government. To report your neighbors as aliens, press 3." And he presses 3 and it says 487 patriotic Americans are ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually he confronts the Diffies and they say, "Oh, aliens gave us the wizard because we're just normal Americans and they wanted to see how we'd react." Is this the episode where they have Hackett over for dinner as like normal Americans and they dress all 1950s and shit?
No.
Oh, that is
In
also an
this
episode.
episode, they dress up as aliens to get the
Mm,
wizard back. And this is when he's like, how did the Diffies have it? And the aliens are like, we gave it to the Diffies. They're just a normal family. But they dress up as aliens and threaten him, which is how they get the wizard back.
that's that's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Is there more?
No, there's not.
Okay. We learn in this episode that pudding is the only substance which can block the signal of a wizard.
Yeah. It feels like we've come so far, but pudding?
That's what I love about the show is that they'll be like, except this one really stupid thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who goes to Morocco in the end? Is it Hackett? Because I wrote a note, how did he go to Morocco without the wizard at the end? But I don't know who he is.
I don't remember anything about Morocco in this episode, and I watched it yesterday.
Well, somebody went to Morocco.
Okay.
It was either Danny or Hackett.
My problem that I have with this is at one point, they're all in the hallway using Pim's wizard to find Phil's wizard,
Mm-hmm.
i.e., find friends on the iPhone sort of vibe. Well, now that we are in the year of 2023 and we know that Find Friends exists, we know how GPS technology works, and
Mm-hmm.
we know that it would tell you exactly where the other, in this case, wizard is, and you'd be able to go find it. No, no, no. The wizard's technology from 2121 is that it just starts beeping more the closer you get to the next wizard. Like,
Oh yeah, it's like playing like the when you're like warmer, cold, cold,
yeah.
like a metal detector.
It's exactly how it is. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Well, also this episode came out before Find My Friend.
Oh, 100%, because that way before it. Because
It was early GPS technology.
even yeah, either very, very early, like it was not commonplace. Because
Mm-hmm.
in high school, when I started driving, which is many years after this episode, there was still not GPS on your phone. Some
Yes,
people did if you were wealthy and had a smartphone, but even it wasn't commonplace. It wasn't like a standard app that you have.
if I was going somewhere I didn't know how to go, I would find the directions on MapQuest and print them out and
Yeah.
follow that.
Yep. And then I would many a time get lost or take a wrong turn and have to call my father and describe the surroundings to him so he could tell me how to get home.
We're both from San Jose, which has a lot of freeways if you think LA, but like not quite as congested, I guess. It's lots of freeways overlapping. And we have this really annoying freeway of 680, which goes through the valley, but it's like 680 South and 680 North. But 680 South becomes 280 North. And I very much like one time went somewhere and then had to get back home and I only had the MapQuest directions to get there because getting home should just be the complete opposite, right?
Mhm.
So then because I originally got on 680 South, I got on 280 North because I was like I was going south and now I should go north. I kept going north until I had to eventually call my mom.
Yep. Yep, that's one time I was driving. I got there just fine, but I was driving home from Sonoma, which is like Napa Valley area. And I took the wrong turn. So then I ended up in downtown San Francisco and I had to call my dad. And I'm like, I don't know where to go. I'm
That's
lost.
hours away from Sonoma
Well,
too.
no, it's on the way home though. Depending
Is
on the
it?
way. Yeah. Yeah. Depending
Oh,
on the way you're going.
we normally go the East Bay way.
Um, well, that was the thing. I was supposed to go towards the Bay Bridge, but then I ended up on the Golden Gate Bridge, and then in San Francisco I went.
My 280 story, I ended up in Cupertino, and I called my mom, and she's from Cupertino, and I was like, I'm in your homeland. Can
Please
you
tell me.
help?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is way before commonplace GPS technology. I think it was when you could just start like renting the little GPS people. And I think we've seen one episode where someone had one of those GPSs in their cars and named it.
Yeah, but it is just funny to me because they come up with some really like progressive forward thinking ideas. And so the fact that the wizard technology is just like hot, warm, cold, I'm like, that's what you think they're using in 2121? Seriously?
Mm-hmm. Like, what if it was in another country or even another city? Would it be able to tell you that? Or would you just have to keep walking until it started beeping?
Yeah, like would it instruct you to get on a Skyact to get there? Like, I don't understand.
Okay, are we ready for episode 22?
Episode 22, Back to the Future.
This is the big one. It's our season finale. If you couldn't tell from that title, it's for real this time. Ooh, okay. This one I actually have notes for, so I can maybe summarize it.
Okay.
So, the episode starts off with Phil and Keely being voted by the school as the cutest couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Keely has to read this out because she does the morning announcements, and Phil films them, and they're both like, wait, what? But we're not. Maybe should we become a couple? And they're like doing this all like on the live morning announcements and share this like really painful, awkward kiss. But
no,
then
they
like
don't kiss.
Oh, sorry.
But they talk about having a first kiss. This is important.
But then right around this time, we see Pim at home. She goes into the time machine for something. I don't remember what. And she's like, wouldn't this thingy like really quickly fix the time machine? And Lloyd's like, no, 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 no. And it turns out Lloyd has been not fixing the time machine intentionally because of how well the family has been doing this whole time in the new century. But now the time machine is fixed and Phil gets a call and it's like, bruh, we're going home. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
So he has to tell Keely, and Keely decides that it's just too sad that she's not going to meet the Diffies when they leave. And they're all packing and whatever. It's like, it's mostly a lot of like sad shit with some aggressive hand holding in between. And then she changes her mind, rushes to where the time machine was. It's already taken off. But then you see Phil in the time machine begging his father to go back so he can give Keely like a really good goodbye. And at this time, Keely's reading the school news again because he goes back to like before or something. And Phil like exclaims on the news, I didn't want to leave without saying goodbye for real, and gives her this big, the Wikipedia summary says passionate kiss on the lips.
Okay.
Look, it's in my notes that it's actually a pretty good kiss.
It is, it is.
And then he goes back to the time machine only to realize that they go back, they take off again, and then they're like, wait a second, where's Curtis? And realize that Curtis was getting like is stuck at home alone in the house, and like our last shot is of him panicking. And that's how the series ends. It's also important to note in that summary, because Keely was like, well, it's not a big deal, you're gonna go to the future, but like we'll see each other, like you've always told us that this told me that this could happen. Like, we'll just, you'll take trips or something like that. And we find out that there's a new, because of the Diffie's law, that you can't like go back and forth. You can't time travel. There's new restrictions on time travel and they can't come back. It's a thanks to the Diffie's law. Excuse me. Yeah.
There was one point in my notes where I just wrote, "Where's Curtis?" because I realized before they did. I'm like, wait a minute, where's Curtis and all
Me
of this?
too. Halfway through my notes, there's where's Curtis been? And then my last note is, oh, they forgot Curtis. I'm so glad the writers didn't just ignore him.
Yeah, me too. This episode does that weird thing where it's like you assume they went back to the future because that's what they're leading it to be, but they kind of leave it up in the air with when it ends, they're going back again to go get Curtis. So you don't really know the ending. So they kind of leave it where, like, if Disney chose to pick up the show for another season, the writers could have still continued off of that.
It feels very final because they chose thanks to the Diffie's law, but I like how open-ended it is as a series finale. Like, I think if it were to go into a season 3, I would have preferred them to leave out the thanks to the Diffie's law and have them living in the year 2121 and going back and forth. So we could like see the future, but he still gets to spend time with Keeley. I think that could be really fun. But as a series finale where we're never going to get another season, I really like how open-ended it is.
Yeah. I thought it was a good ending. Probably, honestly, one of my favorites of the series finales of any of the series we've watched so far. There are obviously shows that we have spoke more highly of, but I feel like every time we get to a series finale, we're like, oh, it doesn't really feel like a series finale, where this one felt like it.
Yes, and that maybe has something to do with the premise that it's not just daily life. There was a central problem that had to be solved.
Sure. My one big note here is, so, right, growing up just casually, I feel like people bring up where you're like, gosh, wouldn't it just be great to be able to like time travel, skip over the traffic, get places quick? Well, in this episode, you learn time traffic is a thing. And Lloyd is so worried about leaving at a certain time because otherwise they're going to hit the time traffic. And that was very upsetting for me to learn. Like,
As someone who lives in LA, you were like really distraught over that, huh?
yeah, like, we're going to have time travel, but there's still going to be traffic? What's the point? Why? The whole point is for no traffic.
Well, I think the point is you can go places in time as opposed to space.
I guess. It's still upsetting.
You can't drive your car to another year.
Well,
It's not teleportation. It's time
I guess that's
travel.
what I'm thinking. I'm relating it to teleportation.
Mm-hmm,
But to me, if
I get
there
what you
is
mean.
time traffic, I also feel like there'd be teleportation traffic.
I'm not thinking of it as teleportation because they have to be in a time machine. So I'm thinking of it as like, in Halloween Town 2, when she's on the timeline on the broom trying to get to a different year and they go through like a black hole to speed it up. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
I'm thinking of it as that way, but there's like a bunch of time machines riding the timeline.
Okay. It's like, hurry up and wait. Get in line.
Yeah, it's like you can get to another year, but you gotta wait in line.
Interesting.
That's what I'm thinking. One, for the brief moments while Phil and Keeley are a happy couple before they find out the time machine is fixed, they have some very aggressive hand-holding and swinging. There's this weird slow-mo walk they do to each other.
Yes.
It's so awkward.
The slow-mo walk I love because it's almost always on Keeley, and it's like clearly they have a bunch of like bright lights and fans in her face, so she's like kind of washed out and her hair is blowing and she's like moving her shoulders back and forth towards Phil. It's really dramatic in like a fantastically hilarious way.
Could you explain this note that I have?
Possibly, probably not.
I wrote, I gotta say Dad had his moments. And then there's a quote. I'm assuming Lloyd said it. Maybe to
Uh-huh.
Barb, maybe to Pim, maybe to Keely. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
The quote is, I'm just saying the guy at the grocery store thinks you're cute and he's rich.
Oh. Wait. I don't remember who says that, but I do remember that line.
I think it's Lloyd because I
I
wrote the
think
dad
it's
has his
Lloyd
moments.
to Barb.
I think it might be. But why is he convincing her to like
I
find a
don't
new is
know.
another line that I have written down because this is okay, so the why would I go for a hamburger when I'm looking at steak line is a line that I will never forget. Not like since rewatching this, but I have never forgotten my life. It was buried somewhere deep in my subconscious as a core memory. And another core memory line from this show comes from this episode of the Teslas are notorious for their clammy hands.
Yeah.
Because for some reason that like stuck with me and I became self-conscious anytime I held someone's hand that they would be clammy. My hands are, I do have clammy hands, but you know what? I love my clammy hands.
Yeah. Can't help it. I
No.
also thought it was funny because, right, we get 2 full seasons of them trying to get back to the future. And finally, once they know that they can get back and that the time machine is running, Lloyd takes it for a test run. I don't think we mentioned that in our summary. So they know, like, it's working. In the morning, we're going. Um, in the middle of the night, all of them,
Trying to sabotage.
they all try to sabotage it. So they all have like hammers and sledgehammers, and they're all trying to like break it, and they all kind of are going at the same time. They're like, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you have a hammer? Like,
Even Pim, who has historically wanted to go home the most.
yep.
I don't even remember. Did she do that for Phil or just something's going on in her life in a B plot?
I think that it's just like one of those rare Pym moments we get where you realize, like, oh, she actually likes where she's at.
Mm-hmm. Um, it's oh, I do have a quote from her. I think she maybe did do it for Phil also because she said, "Boo hoo, Phil's gonna miss his girlfriend." Wow, wow, and then wow, I think I hate myself.
So funny.
Um, another note. No, but really, where is Curtis? We learn money doesn't grow on trees except for the robotic money growing trees.
Mhm.
Also, there's a bit that I didn't realize they did until it happened where Lloyd called Keely Keely and everyone looked around like they were stunned by it. And I didn't realize that they had a running bit that he never called her Keely.
Which I'm like, what does he call her? I noticed that line and I was confused by it because I'm like, I'm not tracking what's happening here.
I think he normally calls her by nicknames. I just didn't realize that it was never her name.
Yeah. It did not land for me because I'm like, okay, I just watched 4 episodes in a row and I didn't notice this. So I
I
feel
don't
like
think
it,
they interact enough
yeah, for it to
for it.
land.
Yeah.
I don't have any other notes other than like, all in all, pretty good series finale.
Atmospheric stabilizer is air freshener.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my notes.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to hit traffic in the age of giant insects.
Oh my god, so we get this literal, I don't know how to describe it without using hands, but giant can of bug spray. Like bigger than a fire extinguisher. Like the size of a trash can of bug spray. Like it was huge.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are my notes. I enjoyed how open-ended it was. It was satisfying because they didn't leave it without getting a Phil and Keely moment. But also without having a whole season to like explore and ruin Phil and Keely together, you know. I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was cute. I kind of wish maybe they did like 2 episodes where we got to see them together and kind of explore their relationship a little bit more. But it definitely was one of those things where they were like, we have to give the fans what they want. We've been setting it up for 2 full seasons. They knew
Mm-hmm.
they weren't going to do a movie, so they couldn't do a Lizzie McGuire where they're like, haha, you guys have to wait. So they give it to you in the last episode.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to do a best and a worst?
Let's do a best and a worst. I don't know what I'm thinking for the best. I do think I know my worst.
That's funny. I knew what my best was, but I had to search for my worst.
Okay, for worst,
Mhm.
I nominate episode 7, Phil Without a Future, which is the
I kn-
one with the weird jail cell scene. It was very strange. I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. It made me uncomfortable.
I knew you were gonna choose that episode. Well, just because you hate an episode about deciding your future.
Yeah, that too. I don't love the overall plot. I don't like what they're pushing, and I just didn't love some of the scenes. It was just weird. It felt like it didn't fit into the show. Like that, the way that episode was shot and the way the scenes flowed did not fit. I just did not like it.
I have 2 nominations for worst, but
Uh-huh.
neither of them are yours.
Okay. Is one of yours the one that was like mildly fat shamey, which I didn't love either?
No, because I think that one was in season 1.
Oh, okay, great. Never mind.
Mine are Where's the Wizard? Because as we discussed, we had like no notes, and also JP Minot as Hackett just like is annoying to me sometimes.
Mm.
And also Christmas Break. I thought it was stupid. I hated that star. I was so sick of it.
Oh, I thought that was kind of a cute Christmas episode. I
I
also
didn't feel I
don't
needed it.
hate Where's the Wizard. If you said Happy Nerd Day, I would happily nominate that one too, because it was just kind of meh.
Oh, I like Happy Nerd Day.
Ugh. I don't think we're going to agree on this one because just both of those episodes are better.
I think we can agree that season 2 is worse than season 1, though.
1,000%.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a best?
So, oh, that one was kind of fun. I'm glancing here to make sure that I'm not missing one that I think is better.
You're more thorough than I was. I just immediately went, that one.
But partially because it's fresh in my brain, but also I do think I honestly enjoyed it, even though I fell asleep the first time. I think Ill of the Future. It's wild, it's zany, the writing is fun, the way that lines are delivered is punchy. Like, it was a fun episode.
Not Greenemia.
Greenemia. But also I liked Phil of the Garage. I would give a second
Oh, I almost
option
put
to.
that in worst.
Oh, really? I like it.
I don't like it. Feels annoying.
Okay.
My best is Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah. I think that is a really good option too. I truly think, I don't know if I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but I think it is our best series end.
I agree. It's the most satisfying
Yeah.
in
It's
multiple
really
ways.
good.
It wraps every plot up.
I can give it to Back to the Future. We can
Okay,
agree on
so
that.
which is kind of great. Like it speaks volumes about the writing for the finale. But so we'll say the best is Back to the Future,
Yep.
our season 2 and series finale.
Yep.
Now I think Jess will do the wrap up while I very quickly try to score this show.
Yes. All right. I'm not going to say as always, but in the last few, I'm just doing Where Are They Now for the main characters. As we mentioned before, the side characters in season 1 and season 2 don't match. They don't stay the same. So I'm just doing our main ones here. So we have Raviv Ullman, who he has had some acting credits since Phil of the Future, but he starred in a few movies, most of them around that time post Phil. So he starred in Driftwood in 2006, Normal Adolescent Behavior in 2007, a movie titled Prom Wars that has a hilarious cover in 2008. And then he did a few episodes of things. So he did a couple episodes of Phineas and Ferb, Criminal Minds, Broad City. And then he did have a reoccurring role in a Lifetime TV show called Rita Rocks. as the character Kip in 2008 to 2009. And he was in that show for over 30 episodes, so quite significant. But other than that, he hasn't done a bunch. His last acting credit was in 2020 for an episode of a mini series titled The Accidental Wolf. He has recently done some interviews where he has spoken out about how he might have changed the way he approached Phil of the Future, and how maybe he just would have changed the way he approached Disney and his acting choices in his early career, which makes sense because, as we see, right, like a lot of his acting credits fall like 2005 to 2010, and then he kind of just falls off, random things here and there, but not much. Also, you'll see a lot of them speak out about a potential reboot or a series following, but all of them are like, Disney really only gives those shows that had 3 or 4 seasons. Like, I don't think they're ever going to give it to Phil, but if they wanted to, like, we would totally do one. And he is one of those stars that speaks openly about the willingness to come back and do a reboot. Then we have Miss Amy Bruckner, who was actually nominated for Best Performance in a TV Series for her role in Phil of the Future. She was nominated in 2006, which I find funny because the show ended in 2004. And then she also was nominated for her performance in Nancy Drew, which she did right after Phil.
Was that a decom Nancy Drew?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think it was an actual film, the way it was listed on IMDb. My understanding is it was an actual film. Not that decoms aren't actual films, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Other things that Amy did, so probably of like our crowd, most notably right along the same time / after Phil ends, she is doing American Dragon Jake Long. And she plays Haley Long and Millie Fillmore.
She did that. Mm-hmm. I totally forgot she was prominent in that.
Mm-hmm. She's in over 25 episodes, so she's like pretty big character. And then, other than that, her last acting credit was in 2017. Haven't seen much from her. Then we have this one, which is gonna be long, guys. It's gonna be long. Ali Mashaka.
Woo!
So I kind of broke this up into like movies, TVs, music, because she just has a lot going on. As we mentioned in our intro episode, this is the start of Ali's career. Phil is the start. So she does a lot. So at the same time as Phil, Ali and AJ are releasing music videos and singles. Their debut album, Into the Rush, releases in 2005. And then the one that I think, at least I remember the most, Insomniatic, which was released in 2007, which that gave us potential. Breakup Song, Chemicals React, like Whoa, like a lot of, at least in my brain, the iconic Ali and AJ hits come from that 2007 album.
Mm-hmm. And Ali and AJ have gone through it back and forth. Like, they wanted to stop making the kind of music that Hollywood Records wanted, but Hollywood Records kept their name but wasn't giving them more albums. So then they went and did Violet 78, I think is what they called it, and did some like indie pop, but then they got their name back. So they're Ali and AJ again, and they're still doing their fun, folksy indie pop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
I'm seeing them in concert soon, so
that, I was going to get to that. So that middle region, that 2007 to 2008, they did other projects, as Amanda just mentioned. They got back into Ali and AJ in 2018. In 2022, they released a deluxe version of their album, which is A Touch of the Beat, gets you up on your feet and gets you out into the sun. It's a very long album title. I don't know who approved that. And then most recently, literally 5 days ago, they just released a 3-song EP titled After Hours. And it's actually pretty good. It's very fun. If you're into that kind of like folky indie pop, it's a really fun EP, and it's like quick.
And they are touring.
They're touring, so that's really what they're focusing on right now. They are on a very, very, very big tour right now. Going into movies. So at the end of Phil, she stars in Cowbells, which we mentioned in 2006, which I think we should watch. And then she also stars in Super Sweet 16 in 2007, Easy A in 2010, as well as The Roommate in 2010. And then this, which I didn't know, which I found fun, is that Allie and AJ filmed a pilot for a show for Disney called Haversham Hall. And it was basically about two twin sisters separated at birth who reunite in boarding school. And it was slated to air in spring of 2006. It never aired.
That sounds kind of like an early version of Liv and Maddie.
Okay.
Do you know Liv and Maddie?
I have never watched. I recognize the name, but I've never watched it. That was past my Disney watching days.
It was even past mine a little bit, but it's Dev Cameron playing two twins, who have been like, one was acting in LA and then she moves back to her hometown in like the Midwest and reunites with her twin.
Oh, cool. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like if we could find that one episode, that might be fun. Because they filmed the pilot, it's there. I don't know if it ever got released on anything. I was trying to find more information on it, and it was like actually really hard to find stuff on it. So it was kind of interesting. But other things she did, so she was a series regular in Hellcats. She played Marty
I fucking
Perkins.
loved Hellcats. Hellcats should have gotten more seasons.
Yeah, and then she also was a series regular. She played Peyton Charles in iZombie, and that she was in for 4 years, so she was a huge series regular in that. But other than that, like, she was on an episode of The Good Doctor last year. She's still doing some acting, but mostly music right now. In the last like 2 years, the biggest focus has been Allie and AJ. Do you have anything else to add about Allie Mashaka?
No, just that she's really hot.
Yep, obvious things we're pointing out here. Then we move to mom, Elizabeth Caroline Lease Sims, so Lease. She's done stuff, but mostly just episodes of shows, not a lot of series regulars, nothing, no big films or anything that I found, but she did an episode of iCarly, like a lot of, I would argue, popular shows. iCarly, 90210, The Middle, Law and Order, Days of Our Lives, Grey's Anatomy. And she just does things like, 1 or 2 episodes of a show a year. And that's kind of where she's at. Then we have Craig Anton, who was a series regular doing voice acting on Tom Goes to the Mayor the same time as Phil. And then post Phil, he has a few film credits. And then he did some episodes again on popular shows. So he was on an episode of True Jackson VP, which was on Nickelodeon, which I forgot was a show. And really seeing that, I was like, oh my God, I definitely watched a lot of that show.
That's like one of the only ones I never watched. But I'm down to watch it because it's Keke Palmer and it's not Dan Schneider.
Yeah, I think it would be a fun one. He was also on a few episodes of Weeds, Two Broke Girls, Mad Men, New Girl, and then Bob's Burgers. He was on quite a few episodes of Bob's Burgers. So his most recent credits are for like the Bob's Burger movies and then a couple other short film credits. That is all I have. The only other thing I wanted to shout out for Where Are They Now? I said I didn't do any side characters, but when I was doing some research, I found that Kay Panabaker retired from acting in 2012, and then she went to UCLA to get a degree as a zoologist, and now she's working at Disney Animals Kingdom as a zookeeper since 2016, and I just found that beautiful. Love it.
I think she also got engaged or married recently. I remember that being on our Instagram in the last like 6 months. Uh, Very cute, very wholesome. I think Danielle still acts though. Brenda obviously still acts mostly in doll face right now. She's, yeah, JP Minot, Jess wanted to do, and she was like, he's done too much stuff. Fair enough. So he acts, we went through like how incredible these side characters were. I mean, can't be said for all of them, but a lot of them. And then Lil Danny, who's Brandon Michael Smith, we'll see him later if we get to Sunny with a Chance.
Yep.
Which I hope we do, because I feel like we both really liked that show.
I just have a lot of thoughts on Demi Lovato. She's that one person that I will like never be embarrassed to love, and I know people have a lot of thoughts about her, but
I'm a ride or die, absolutely, with Demi Lovato. I
Yes.
fucking love her.
Me too. As controversial as she can be, I'm always like, you fucking go, Demi. Like, speak up about, everything. Like, people just get mad at her, but I'm like, she's the best.
And another Disney person who's a big fan of the pop punk.
Yes.
Okay. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But anyway, lots of the side characters went on to have huge careers. So,
show ranking? Or
show
quiz?
rankings.
Okay.
Let's do the show rankings, and then stick around, guys, because I'm going to do a fun little quiz with Jess. So, every time I go to rank a show, I immediately hate myself for how well I ranked Even Stevens, but there is no going back. There is only going forwards. So, I gave Phil of the Future overall a 3.5. It was a good show. I enjoyed it.
I also, are we going back and forth, or do you want to give all of yours?
We can go back and forth. That's fine.
I also gave it a 3.5 for the same reasons.
I almost wish that we had a premise category, though, because then this would be a 5 out of 5. Impact, I gave it a 2. It only had 2 seasons. It wasn't a big shift for the channel,
I gave it a 3, and the only reason was in my Where Are They Now when I was doing research. It actually got a ton of views. It was very, very popular on the Disney Channel. It shocked a lot of people when they canceled it and didn't give it a 3rd season. So that's why I gave it a 3, because it was very big for the time it aired. It just didn't, unfortunately, get that 3rd season.
It feels a little... Now, looking back on it, a lot of people don't remember it as well compared to the long-running Sweet Life and Raven that it got sandwiched between, which is a little unfair.
100%.
Star Power, I gave it a 4. This was that cast. Like I said in our first episode, I was in love with everyone. And also, as we just said in the wrap-up, a lot of them had careers, and the side characters in particular.
I also gave it a 4, and I almost rated it higher, but then I was like, oh, can I rate it higher than Raven? That feels not allowed. So
Agreed.
I gave it a 4.
Yeah, but when you have you have Brenda Song and Evan Peters in your first season. Anyway.
Yep.
Rewatchability, I gave it a 4 because it was just like it's a solid rewatch. I enjoyed it.
It felt, honestly, that, and maybe this is more, it was 2 seasons and not as many episodes as Raven, which started to feel a little daunting the further on we got. All of these episodes were quick, they were fun, they were snappy, they went by. So I feel like it is one of those shows that's very, very rewatchable. And because it's so zany and weird, you can put it on in the background and you don't have to be paying attention, but you still get the gist of what's going on.
Yeah, it's refreshing. Does it hold up? Relevance? I also gave it a 4. Look, it's mostly 4s across the board for this show. It was a solid rewatch. But anyway, for relevance, 4, because despite most things happening in the future, very few are things that we should have had happen by now. So because I felt like this would have the hardest does it hold up if they were like, well, by 2023, all of these things should have happened. But I think that only came up like once. So
yeah, chores were supposed to be abolished in 2016. I feel like that was the only thing.
And you also gave it a 4. Is that for like the same reason?
Same reasons. Yep.
So my average is a 3.5, which unfortunately puts it at number 4 out of 4 on my list because Even Stevens got a 3.7. Jess?
So mine averages out to 3.7, which actually puts it above Even Stevens. So it's third on my list, which based on rewatching them, I would say that is exactly how I feel.
Let's correct this. It ties it with Even Stevens. They're at a
It
joint
ties it.
third place.
Correct.
And our overall is 3.6, which does put it fourth in the overall. So far our rankings are That's So Raven at number 1, Lizzie at number 2, Even Stevens at number 3, and Phil of the Future at number 4. And I really do feel like the crux of Phil getting a lower rating than Even Stevens, it's got something to do with the really long careers afterwards for Even Stevens, but it's got more to do with how early we rated that show and how much that show had to do with the starting of Disney Channel programming. I think I gave it a lot on impact for that.
Agreed. I definitely rated way higher on impact and a little bit higher on overall, which makes sense. It really kicked off Disney doing these sort of shows. So
that said, I think we both enjoyed Phil a little bit more.
Yes, totally.
Okay. So now we're going to get into our quiz. It was my turn to quiz Jess. If you don't know, every show that we watch, one of us comes up with quiz questions and the other one has to answer. We alternate. So it's my turn. And this quiz is called Fact or False, but like both spelled with PHs. So, you know.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And then this is part 1 of the quiz. Okay, so question number 1. Unification Day is the day when all borders were dissolved in 2020. Fact or false?
False.
That is correct. Do you know when Unification Day happened?
2094 or 95. I know we determined we would be like 100 and something.
I can't believe you're not looking at your notes.
I closed out of my notes. I'm just looking at your face.
It's 2094.
Yeah. Well, I knew we had a discussion that we would be about 100 days old, or 100 years old, so we may be alive for it. That's the only reason I know.
Question number 2. The eye wand can straighten or fix hair.
True. Oh, fact.
Correct.
Okay.
These are way too easy.
No, I'm into it.
Question number 3. A mini missile is used to make Skyax go faster. Fact or false?
False?
Are you sure about that?
No. I'm sticking with it.
You're sticking with false?
Yeah, because I have no idea what a mini missile does.
That is correct. Do you have no idea what a mini missile does?
No.
Do you have any idea what the thing is that makes the Skyax go faster?
No. Oh, the card. That looks like a
What's
Pokemon card. I don't know. Something weird. I don't remember.
Except that's a real thing that exists.
Oh, okay. A mini missile does not exist.
No. An afterburner is a real thing that exists that makes the Skyax go faster. It makes similar things go faster in our lives. The mini missile is literally just a mini missile, and it's in the episode where Phil pretends to do gymnastics.
Mm-hmm. I do remember.
He puts it on himself and he like flips around.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'll give you got it correct as false, but half point.
I also knew kind of what makes the Skyax go faster. I just didn't know what it was called.
It's not a Pokemon card, Jess.
It looks like a Pokemon card.
It's not a fucking Pokemon card. Question number 4.
Uh-huh.
The Sugar and Spice 800 is the model of the robot that Keeley flirts with at the mall. Fact or false?
Fact?
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
That one is false. I don't know the model of the robot that Keeley flirts with. The Sugar and Spice 800, though, is the model that Debbie Berwick is in the Halloween episode.
Oh, okay.
The one that tries to take over the world that they had to
Yeah.
get rid of.
Yeah.
Number 5, very easy. In the future, hedges are trimmed by lasers. Fact or false?
This is very easy.
Oh, easy to me.
Okay, I'm going to say fact. It's probably
Correct.
wrong. Oh, great.
No, it's correct.
That feels dangerous.
It does. I now have 5 fill in the blanks.
Okay.
I'm really having fun with the PH things.
Yeah, you are.
This one I'm really upset that you just answered, so it's an immediate give me. Chores were abolished in
2016.
correct. Number 2. These do get harder. If holding books means you're interested, holding a door means blank.
I remember this episode. Oh, I don't know. Is this like Tia? Tia and Keely are having this conversation. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if holding books means you're interested, holding a
door,
door
means...
I don't know.
Remember, they were like related to each other.
I don't know.
No guesses?
No, I was just like you're in love or something like that, but it's not. That's not what it is.
That is not correct. The correct answer is if holding books means you're interested, holding a door means interested but currently seeing someone else.
Oh my! Yeah, I would have never guessed that, but I do remember that conversation.
From the same conversation,
Yes.
front cuts, number 3 of fill in the blanks, front cuts means you think she's cute, back cuts, blank.
I don't know. I remember this. I don't know. Back cuts means okay, so front cuts, which would be better. You're letting someone cut in front of you, so they're cute. Back cuts means like she's taken or like she's a friend.
Back cuts means let's be friends.
Oh, okay. Okay. I feel like I got that one.
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Number 4, fill in the blank. This is number 9 of our 10-question quiz overall, except that there is a bonus question. Anyway.
Okay.
Number 4, chalk monitor had to watch blank pounds of chalk.
Oh, it was something crazy. I don't remember, but oh Lord. I'm like, was it something crazy like 14 pounds or was it something crazy like 80 pounds?
Those are 2 very different numbers.
I know, I couldn't remember which both would be crazy. Let's go with like 44 pounds of chalk.
You really just averaged.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
It is far lower than that.
6.
A lot closer.
9.
Ding, ding, ding. It is 9 pounds of chalk, which is still a stupid amount of chalk.
Yeah, great.
But a lot better than 44.
Yeah.
And our last fill in the blank. In 75 years from 2003, because of the show, in 75 years, we lose our blank.
One of our toes, our pinky toe.
Correct. It is our pinky toe. Now, that was your 10 questions. You did quite well.
We might actually be alive for that.
We might. 75 years from 2003? Probably not, but maybe. You've done quite well. I don't know what your score is. I might put it on the screen. I might not if I'm feeling lazy. But we have a final 4, spelled PHOR. For it all, would you like to answer this question or leave with your points?
Oh, like for it all, like if I get it wrong, then I lose all my points?
Yeah. I don't know what happens if you get it right. You just like get the glory. You get all of them correct.
No, I would like to take my points.
But I want you to answer this question anyway.
Okay, you could ask it anyway, but I'm choosing to take my points.
Jessica's making her own rules to my quiz.
You just asked me for all would you like to, and I said no. You shouldn't have offered me an option.
Anyway, who does Keely Tesla sometimes dream she's married to?
Huh. I don't know.
This also comes from the Toe episode.
Keely Tesla, sometimes it's strange, right?
Uh-huh.
An older man.
All right, okay, Dan Schneider. No.
It's not. Huh. Well,
That
she's
would
like
not be appropriate for
16 at the
Disney.
time. Okay, so it's another like young. I have no idea.
When she's It's a good thing that you didn't follow
It's
the
a
rule.
cartoon character, isn't it?
It sometimes is, yes. Not always, but sometimes.
Huh. I don't
It is
remember who
also-
it is, but it is a cartoon character.
Any other?
No.
Okay. Wow, it's a good thing that you broke my rules and decided to keep all your points because I'm not giving it to you for cartoon character because it is traditionally actually a toy which has been adapted into a cartoon. Mr.
Potato Head.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Keely Tesla sometimes dreams that she's married to Mr. Potato Head.
I remember that.
Initially, I wrote down every single invention and I was like planning on quizzing you on all of them, except I deleted my notes for season 1 before writing this quiz. And B, they're all like named after exactly what they do. Like their names are just way too easy.
Yeah. Like my Instamorph.
Be like, what's the replicator do? What's the new age do?
Yeah.
Virtue goggles. Can't figure out what that is. But anyway, you did very well. Congrats.
Thanks.
I hope that was fun.
Oh no, sorry. I was trying to do a round of applause for myself and my mic's in the way.
Overall, do we have anything else? We
I don't think we have anything else. Go rewatch Phil, especially season 1. It was great. We had fun with it, and I think we're not ready to announce anything, but I think next up we'll do a couple decoms.
Probably.
And if you have any suggestions or anything you want, let us know. And other than that, check us out on our socials. We're 90s Babies Nostalgia. Spell out the word 90s on Instagram and YouTube. Also, whenever these get posted, please rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts because that helps with visibility.
And thanks for listening to us because we're in a weird space right now where rewatch podcasts are now everywhere and they're all headed by celebrities. So if you've bothered to listen to us, we are very grateful. We're just having fun.
Yep. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.